All right, welcome Cincinnati Bengals fans. Once again, we are running through the jungle. I'm your host, Brandon Herriott, with your host, Justin Lacey. How's it going, Justin?
Oh man, I'm doing fantastic, bro. It was a tough pill to swallow after watching the Bengals lose again on Sunday night against the Chargers, but overall, man, this is a much needed break that I was looking forward to.
Yes, it is a much needed break, and Tim Lyons is taking this break quite literal. No, I kid. Unfortunately, he's having some issues. They had a cyclone up in his neck of the woods near the Seattle area, so hope everything gets going back to normal over there for him. He does not have internet right now, so we are going to be rolling as a dynamic duo for this one.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what, too? It's probably a good thing. It's a blessing in disguise, I'll say to Tim, man. Shout out to you, Tim, bro. Hope everything goes well for you in your area. But the lot of negativity that's swirling around Bengals Nation right now is probably not needed at this point for you to see. So it's probably a good thing that you don't have internet.
Hey, one thing that I got to admit did not go negatively for me Sunday night with the Bengals game was my pocketbook. My DK account got me a deposit.
I like
deposit.
Yeah, I like that.
I took the over and I took the Chargers, man. You can't keep playing me the same movie over and over and over again. Expect me, like, sooner or later, I'm going to root with my heart. I'm going to bet with my pocketbook.
Yeah.
And there it was, man.
You know what? And again, it was one of those things where I believe that this was going to be the turning point, that this team was going to understand that their backs against the wall and they were going to show up and show out. I honestly stayed away from this game altogether, and I shouldn't have done that because I had a feeling that they were going to at least make it entertaining. I should at least bet the over-under on score total. I don't even recall what that line was set, but I knew I should have bet the over at the very least with that. But overall, man,
47.5, I believe, is what it ended at.
And before the final score, it was what? 27-27. That's what?
Yeah.
54. Or 54. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, no, 25-25 is 50. Yep, 54. You're right. All right. Sorry. I had to get my math right. Yeah, so it already would have went over. And I had all these different acquiring targets of where I wanted the betting line to go. I knew also I should have just went with Justin Herbert and passing yards just because I just knew this was going to be the game where the secondary was going to get tested more than anything because Jim Harbaugh knew that they like to establish the run, but if they needed Justin Herbert, they're like, hey, you got to go out there and start slinging the rock a little bit. This was the Bengals defense to do it against. And I feel like I should have went with my gut and went with the over on the passing yards.
And over the past couple of weeks, they've let Herbert, throw the ball a little bit more too. They're getting a little more comfortable, I think, with their young receivers.
Right, for
sure. That's had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, listen, interesting game to say the least. We're going to give you a quick snippet of our Chargers recaps, game balls, and coaches' cliff notes. We're going to keep that trucking, and we're going to get into the second half of the show. We're going to give you our bye-week position grades as it stands right now with every position group for the Bengals and how we think they're doing. Are they exceeding expectations? Are they not? Give them those grades. And man, I bet we have a little something to say about the coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a guess. But before we get into that, we'll give you a second here to go ahead and like, subscribe, rate, review, and share us if you can, please. That is our lifeblood. If you're listening to us on your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast, that 5-star rating really does help us out a lot on those algorithms. So if you can do that for us, we'd much appreciate it. Let's talk game balls, man.
Okay, let's do it.
Should we call them team game balls or T game balls?
Oh, we going T game ball. It was great. His first game back after having a couple of injuries, sitting out for a couple of games, and we finally had missed him. We just missed him. Jamar missed him. Joe missed him. The whole offense missed T's presence, and it showed on Sunday night. What was it? 7 catches, 149
9 for 148.
9 for 148 and a touchdown.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, he almost almost caught the Hail Mary that would have tied the game. But Derwin James also made a good play to, jar it out of his hands and knock it down on that Hail Mary attempt. But that ball landed in T. Higgins' hands. And if it landed and it was securely possessed, he was scoring. And next thing you know, we're talking about, oh, my goodness, I can't believe that just happened. But, yeah, no, I love the performance of Joe Burrow. I love the performance of Jamar Chase. But T. Higgins' presence on the field to me was a much more renowned as to what sort of just like, I'm so happy that he's back as far as that's my guy. Yeah. He's got to get the game ball for offense.
Yeah. His soft tissue injuries, man, are just too bad because I'd really like to see what this guy could do if he stayed healthy on the field consistently year in and year out. He comes into the league a little bit slight, but strong hands, still has those strong hands at the catch point, about as strong as they are in the league. He is beefed up a little bit, and he makes the hard catches.
Yeah.
He gets in the middle of the field. He contested catches, takes the hits, and keeps it going, man. I really like it when he's out there. It's a shame that he doesn't get to play more because of these injuries. And the real shame is what we're going to be talking about a lot this offseason, because I don't know if that's a repairable relationship right there.
Yeah, I hate to start the earlier conversation of if the Bengals front office and T. Higgins, are they going to come to an agreement and understand that, hey, we can pay you? I don't know. It felt like it was a swan song before the season started that this was T. Higgins' last year. But if it is, he's going out with a bang, and I'm happy to watch him. And I'm going to keep rooting for him no matter where he goes. I hope he doesn't go anywhere in the AFC North, but nonetheless, man, this dude has but to your point, like his physicality, he's definitely jacked up. You just remember him being that scrawny, skinny guy coming out of, Clemson. And this just felt like that. Maybe I like his vertical ability to an extent, maybe, but I just feel like that he needed to, jack himself up a bit. Man, he has definitely hit the weight room. He has kind of grown into his full NFL man-sized body to be able to withstand that punishment going across the middle and then making those out route kind of catches. And one of the smart heads up play that he made, it was a catch that he made on the sidelines. And instead of just going directly out of bounds, he broke a couple of tackles and still kept going and also stayed in bounds to let the clock going. That was one of my favorite plays. It was a heads up play by him. And it was an awareness kind of thing to where you don't think that you get that from other players unless you already know that those guys were in the position. So, I get a lot of great things to say about T. Higgins.
High football IQ.
Exactly. But those things come with experience and being in the system as long as he have and understanding that, dude, this is the time. This is crunch time. And he's delivered. There's obviously a couple of things that you want to say, but we're not going to speak any negative right now because this is game ball recipients and Teague's the game ball. And I hope to keep him in stripes moving forward beyond this year, but we don't know how that's going to go.
On the defensive side, I don't really want to hand out a game ball. I will tell you this. Kudos to B.J. Hill. Man, he was obviously playing injured. Really sucked it up because we were already thin on the defensive tackle position. And then you get Sheldon Rankins going to the hospital with
some illness or something.
Of some sort, yeah.
And then he's saying that he's better the next day or something. I don't know what's going on with that. Here's what I will say, though. I did predict Joseph Osai to get a game ball as a guy that can finally get pressure. He did get a sack, and it was a good sack that he had that on the 3rd and long that Justin Herbert was, he was trying to pass and climb the pocket. He ran right into Joseph Osai, and that was a great fine. It was like finally somebody else other than Trey Hendrickson gets a sack. So that was nice to see.
In the second half, the defense did play pretty well, and we saw some glimpses from some younger cats out there, pun intended. And I like what I see out of Newton. I like what I see out of some of these younger guys. I think we should see, we see a lot of stuff going around on social media. I think we should see more of what we have in these younger guys. Get them out there, get them on the field, find out. What's the hurt now? They played faster in that second half when there was more young bodies out there. I truly believe that.
And I also felt like the younger DBs that was finally getting their opportunities to shine, like a Fig Newton, and unfortunately like a DJ Turner, where he's obviously had some time, but he's also been sitting on the bench for quite a little bit as well too, and being rotated in and out, and that wasn't very helping with his development. He hadn't got a chance to go through the fire, and unfortunately now that he has that clavicle injury to his shoulder, he's going to be out for the season. But I felt like in the second half, though, the secondary finally was really sticky in coverage. Obviously, they still had their disappearing act points where it just felt like that, oh my gosh, this is just going to be awful yet again. They held for so long, but you already knew the bad was still going to be there. But I just really felt like that the young guys in the secondary, Fig Newton, as you mentioned, man, they made some good pass breakups. And it's like, I felt like that they made it so hard for the Chargers receivers to get anything good in the second half.
They ran that touchdown, the game-winning touchdown with Dobbins around the edge, and I saw CTB dive awkwardly at him and Geno Stone take a bad angle and get beat to the byline. And I was like, my God, I've seen that.
You also know what?
I've seen that before.
We also need to throw out there Sam Hubbard on that play, because I don't know what the hell he was doing. This was by far one of the worst Sam Hubbard games I've ever watched. It was so bad to the point where it's like, dude, not only that you're not effective as a pass rusher, but this particular game, he was not even effective as a run stopper. We always appreciated his ability to at least knife in there and stop the run or neutralize it for that matter, but he's not even doing that. Other guys are doing that. And on that J.K. Dobbins touchdown run that sealed the deal, it's like he was blocking a guard into his own man. And then he basically didn't even contort his body good enough to be able to stop it, where he was in position that he could have made the tackle short of the line of gain. But it just so happened, Jake and I was like, oh, really? I got this free run. And there you go. And then obviously bad angles happen. And at that point, it was all for naught. I didn't think that the Chargers were willing to go for it. Like, they weren't looking to try to score a touchdown there. In my opinion, they were looking to run out the clock and kick a game-winning field goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it felt like they were doing.
Same
it felt like they took their foot off the gas pedal, and they were just like, "Oh, hey, let's just control the clock. We know we got a kicker."
Got deflated. Yeah, they got deflated. The Bengals got deflated and just
that's what they want to do. And it just so happened to work out in their favor, because the Bengals defense was so porously bad, and they were back being bad at that point to where J.K. Dobbins just got himself a touchdown, and that's how they won. But now the credit is going to be given the Chargers, Justin Herbert and but Jim Harbaugh and Jesse Minter for being able to withstand the Bengals' furious comeback and all that, when the reality is the Bengals just lost that game more than the Chargers won. And that's how I see it.
Yeah, for sure. Austin's Art, thank you as usual for rocking with us, man. We appreciate you checking out the show. Listen, I don't know if you got much more you want to say about this Chargers game. I can take this as a little segue right into the coach's cliff notes if you want me to.
Let's do it, man, because we said it quite a bit enough regarding the offense and defense, but let's do it, man. Coach's cliff notes, we going into it.
Because you did reference the clavicle injury from DJ Turner. And Coach said, we're not ruling him out for the entire season. It's got to heal. And he danced around. I thought for sure he was going to say there's a chance if we get into the playoffs. And I think he didn't do it so he didn't get murdered on social media. I really do. I think that's why he didn't do it. Because he just does the little dance about, we're not going to panic. We're not going to change who we are. We're going through the process. We're getting better. We got to find ways to close games. We got to do a better job as coaches. We got to put our players in position to make the best plays for them. And dude, it's the same damn post-game interview. It's the same Wednesday interview every week, man.
Yeah. It's disgusting, bro. At this point in time, man, I'm no longer here for it. And quite frankly,
panic.
Dude, I was actually done with his post-game press conferences weeks ago, just because I felt like he was not sending a strong enough message to the organization, to the team, that how we've been playing is unacceptable. And to also hear him say that we don't need to make really any true wholesale changes. Look, at this time last year, and I hate comparing guys to other division rival coaches and stuff like that, but I'm sorry, but I'm going to. Last year when Mike Tomlin was facing adversity and they were losing a bunch of games and their offense was playing horrendous and stuff like that, and they still end up finding themselves in the playoffs last year. Mike Tomlin got up there on the mic where he said, look, man, it may not be, no crazy abundance amount of changes, but hell yeah, there's going to be some changes. And this was last year during the middle of the season. And I think that they were facing a losing record at the time. And yet that's when he made that statement. There are going to be some changes. Not sure where they are or where they're going to come from, but we are going to make some changes. Now, it wasn't no crazy, changes or anything like that, but it got the team to respond. And they also had about adversity with quarterbacks changing midseason, the defensive injuries and stuff. They didn't have the best offense or best weaponry or to even trot out there last year. I think last year's team was far worse than this year's team, clearly, and yet they still found a way to get wins and make the playoffs. And Zach Taylor, with the much more talented group, still just leaning off of this hope and believing that it's just going to naturally just fit together like a puzzle piece without having to understand that, dude, maybe you just got the wrong puzzle pieces and you got to go out there and change something up. And it's getting to the point now that it's bled into the locker room with the players. You heard Jamar Chase's comment about, dude, ask the coaches. Don't talk to me about that. I ain't going calling plays, and I believe in my teammates, but you know what I mean? It's getting to that point now where, man, it's drilled into the locker room. And we feared that was going to happen if we were to lose this game against the Chargers. How will the rest of the locker room react? And I feel like that, man, they're just not taking kindly to anything that Zach Taylor's saying. And I feel for him. I really do.
Listen, Zach Taylor's never going to be a guy like Brian Kelly at LSU that's pounding on the table and spitting on the microphone and stuff. That's not his personality. It's not his MO. But he can sit up there and say calmly, listen, we've got to evaluate everything.
Right.
What we're doing right now and who we're doing it with is not working well enough. It's not hitting our expectations.
Yeah.
So, yes, everything's on the table for going forward. Everything's on the table going forward. Very few people in this building are safe.
Mm-hmm.
You've got an MVP caliber quarterback. You've got triple crown winning wide receiver. You got a sack leader. Those three people probably pretty safe. The rest of it, everybody's getting evaluated.
Absolutely, as you should.
Why not say that? Like that's fair without causing a riff or going like the guys in the locker room got to feel that way.
Right. And I'm just going to say this, and this is just critically analyzing Zach Taylor. He has a losing record as a head coach for the Bengals. I know that we kind of dismissed the 2019 season. He inherited a horrible Marvin Lewis, led team coming off the back end of that failure, disaster of a year, and ended up leading to him having a disastrous first year. I know we dismissed that, but the reality is that's a part of his repertoire as a head coach. Because I'm sorry, you can put a lot of successful head coach in that situation, and they're not having a 2-14 season that year either. But here's what I'll say. We appreciated everything that he's done. But at some point, you got to ask yourself, has he reached his peak as a head coach for this organization? And maybe that we just need to move on and have a nice, clean break in next offseason. Well, when the offseason starts up. And I keep finding myself asking myself this question. When it comes to the AFC North, do you have one of the top 2 best coaches in the division? No, you don't. In fact, you have the 4th best coach in your division, but you have the top 1 or top 2 quarterback in the division. You have the number 1 best receiver in the division and pass rusher. You have one of the 3 best pass rushers that reside in the AFC North in your division. And yet, for some reason,
those are 3 of the top 5.
And yes, exactly. And yet, you haven't found a way to maximize the strength and talents of all of these guys. They've kind of had to do it on their own. And yet, let's just take it out of the division. Look at the current landscape of the AFC playoff picture right now. Is there any head coach that goes toe-to-toe with the Bengals? Is there any head coach that you think to yourself, or any team that has a head coach that you think to yourself, the Bengals have a better coaching advantage over this team on the current AFC playoff picture right now? I don't believe so.
Playoff picture?
The current playoff picture right now. And that even includes the people that's in the 5th seed, the 6th seed, the 7th seed. That would be Baltimore. Obviously, he's not better than John Harbaugh or Mike Tomlin. We've established that. The 6th seed is Jim Harbaugh right now with the Chargers. And the 7th seed is, I think, is the Denver Broncos. Is he better than Sean Payton and Curly right now? No. So my point is that if you're the front office and you seeing how the way that this season is going, and you got to sit there and listen to those post-game reactions from those post-game pressers from Zach Taylor and ask yourself, do we truly have the right guy leading the charge? And do we truly need to upgrade this position? It'll be somewhat of a bold move. Let's say that the Bengals do go make a run and hit the 7th seed as a playoff team as a 7th seed. If they go one and done, are you happy with that? No. Maybe as a fan, you're probably, oh, I'm glad we turned around. No, you shouldn't be happy with that, especially with the expectations coming into this season.
Listen, Austin Zart has a question I want to get to, but you spoke to something here, and we've talked about it in the past and about speaking on it even today. There are some problems with the makeup of the franchise I don't like, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things I don't understand why, management doesn't speak during the season. That whole stance of the GM doesn't speak. Everybody across the league does for the most part. You know what I mean? That's your job, man.
Right.
You're always evaluating talent.
Yeah.
Always. Well, part of the problem is there's no talent evaluation going on outside of when they're coaching, because they rely on their coaches as their scouts for the most part. There's not a 4-person team of scouting. There's no scouting team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are we doing here that's going to be? Is that where we draw the line? Like, you know what? We're not going to invest, $1 million, $2 million into scouting department. But, we're not going to do that because, it's a little tight. We don't want to spend that money. That pays for itself.
Right.
If you get one more draft pick right because of that group a year, holy cow, does it pay for itself?
Yeah, for sure. And quite frankly, too, the fact that they don't do extensions in the season when it can't call for it, like Jamar Chase is just overachieving like crazy. And Jamar, he knows that he was willing to bet on himself or whatnot, but you also know that he was willing to go into the season. He wanted to go into the season with the deal already locked up.
Yeah.
But literally any other team would have already got that deal done with Jamar before the season would even started. But let's say that there was a team out there that understood where the Bengals were coming from. I have a hard time believing that, but let's just go with that example. And Jamar's having the kind of season that he's having right now with that said team. Do you not think that team will extend him this mid-season? That's the thing. Like, they don't understand that just because the offseason ends the minute that the regular season starts, that don't mean that you just stop. It's like you're in the restaurant management business, right, Brandon?
I was, yes.
And I used to be in the restaurant management field too. And quite often I was in a situation where I was traveling to different restaurants, but more or less the new restaurants. And then they were just like, we were obviously overseeing and responsible for hiring the right staff and all that good stuff. But then we, as the retail operations management squad, were responsible for empowering not only the management team for this existing restaurant, but the crew members as well too, that were going to work that said restaurant, to let them know of what the vision is. And it was inspiring and all that good stuff. And then once we left, then they needed to continue on the journey and to kind of fulfill their own dream.
Yeah.
But what if it doesn't go well after the launch point? Then you're going to ask yourself, okay, what they were wrong? Oh, well, that's their restaurant now. They got to do it. No, you still should be an outlet for that restaurant
back in there
and go in there and try to see what can we identify those root causes and see if there's anything that we can fix. And that's where I feel like that the Bengals are as a front office. They're like that management team that will, in the offseason, they'll do their due diligence, check a few boxes, speak when they need to be spoke because of a calendar date that they have set on, but they don't really do any sort of touch points throughout the rest of the time. And it just gets exhausting. And you hearing all these stories like, the Blackburns was in Switzerland at a time a regular season game was being played. It's like, where's your level of enthusiasm and understanding you have problems on this team? And even when things are great, you don't look to get better. You just look at what went well, and then you try to copy that blueprint and formula and apply it the rest of the way, and not understanding that the law of averages are going to come in factor at some point, and yet you still got to continue to get better. And I don't see that elevating from this front office. And there's a lot of this stuff is outside of Zach Taylor's control, but more so, this is a problem with the nucleus of the front office that we've all talked about. And the scouting, look, they have high points and they have low points, just like any other organization. But my fear is when they have the high points, they look at the current structure, the construct of the organization, and then they're like, we don't need to do any changes because we know we can find success doing what we're doing. Where do you really want to look at it that way? That's just so tunnel vision to just mediocrity.
Yeah, too much time patting yourself on your back when you have one good season.
Yeah, dude, how they've built the team this particular season, they tried so hard to mirror what they did 3 years ago when we made our Super Bowl appearance, where if we're honest with ourselves, that team is never coming back again because you got to look to get better and be more forward thinking in your approach. And they haven't done that.
Yeah, well, I keep saying when you have Joe Burrow, you have a responsibility to support that man. Like that.
Exactly.
You have a generational talent. You have a responsibility to support that. I do want to get in this question real quick before we do take a break. Austin's Art, great question. Do you guys think the season's over at this point? I'm kind of getting close to thinking that way. The season has just been wasted this year. Justin, I'll let you take that one, man.
All right. So, look, as far as like the hopes of a playoff spot getting locked up and whatnot, to me, I know that they're not mathematically out of it. And that's where the construct of Zach Taylor's message that he's going to talk like that until they're mathematically eliminated from postseason contention. But the reality is that this team has not shown you any sort of lifeblood to make you believe that they still should be in it to win it towards the very end. And quite frankly, I think the season is over from that standpoint. Now, in terms of producing and just kind of putting good tape out there, no, it's not over because you still got 6 games left in the season. You still got a quarterback that's, albeit he's not having a great winning record or whatnot, but he can still rattle off a number of wins, playing for pride. I'm sorry, but I like the fact that even though it's not going as well as we wanted it to this season, I like the fact that Joe Burrow is the leading category in touchdown passes, passing yards, and touchdown passes thrown. QBR, he's top 5 in that. I like that. Jamar Chase is on pace to having a triple crown season. He's the leading candidate for such. And man, you hate that these things are going to waste because the team has a losing record, of course, but there is still a great things to play for when it comes to pride in that context. It's like, dude, I love what these guys are doing, and I'm obviously going to tune in to watch. But in terms of the season itself, as far as like playoff hopes and all that, yeah, they may not be mathematically eliminated, but they've shown me nothing to make me believe that they have a pulse and they will be considered a playoff team in the end. I just think that they dug themselves way too deep in a hole, and that's kind of on them at this point.
Yeah, listen, I love football. I love Cincinnati Bengals. I love the Bengals football. I'm going to be watching the games with the same enthusiasm I normally do. The issue I have right now is mostly off the field stuff, and it leaks over into the defense, and I think part of that is because of off the field stuff and coaching. But that's – do they have the capability to run off 6 straight? That's what you're asking me. Because I think you got to be 10-7 to guarantee yourself getting into the dance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not going to count him out, but I say it's highly unlikely.
Yeah.
And because also, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are not going to tackle anybody.
No, and also, too, you're also doing a lot of hope that other teams lose and beat teams for us. Because
you would beat the Broncos if you do run that. So that would help you. You'd beat it does look good, but you got to win out.
Yeah.
I still don't think they can.
No, I don't think so either. And who's to say that the Colts doesn't find a new life? They've made a change back to Anthony Richardson. They just pulled off a win against. I'm not sold on the Colts, but but the bottom line is, yes, we can say that hey, everything's right in front of us now, but that we can only say that about playing against one team, and that's the Denver Broncos. Like you're so far stuffed into the hole with trying to do anything regarding the AFC North. So your 2 games against Pittsburgh is going to be meaningless, even if you do sweep the Steelers. In that context, you're still going to probably find yourself 2 games beneath them in the standings record with them. Now, they got a tough schedule coming up too, but at the end of the day,
don't get me wrong. I'm petty. I'm rooting for that sweep.
I'm rooting for the sweep too.
That might help my season feel a little bit better.
But
I live in Pittsburgh, brother. You got to remember that.
Yeah, no, trust me, I get it, and I hate for you to have to endure that terrible towels being waved in your face if we were to go at least 1 loss against them. Because the reality is this next game that we have coming up against them at home, that's the most important game of the season now, because we've dug ourselves in the hole this deep. But we also understand and identify that was going to be the game to show you that if you can hang with the rough and tough of the AFC North, because the Bengals are not an AFC North quality football team right now. And that's sad because we have the Jimmies and Joes that we think that can become that, but they just haven't been that way.
Yeah, my biggest off-the-field issue can be kind of summed up. I'll sum it up like this. I was a Penei Sewell over Jamar Chase guy. I admit that I was wrong, right? I think Jamar Chase is more of a game breaker. Both of them are home runs, though.
Right.
Both of those players, arguably the best right tackle, arguably the best wide receiver. The difference, the Detroit Lions have already re-signed Penei Sewell. Made him the highest paid right tackle in football.
Is he a right tackle or a left tackle?
He's right.
You know what? Here's also the thing you got to ask yourself this question. If we were to go the Penei Sewell route, because I was Team Chase, but if we were to go the Penei Sewell route, I wouldn't have been mad at the Penei Sewell pick, but you're going to miss the opportunity of being explosive. But is he going to be developed under the right coach in Frank Pollock?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to uncover there, but what I'm looking at though is the structure of the general manager and the operations side of it.
Mm-hmm.
You hit the home run, sew them up, pay the guy.
Right.
They've Montgomery, they gave him another contract.
Yep.
They gave Jared Goff $55 million. They're paying him the same. They're figuring out a way to get it done.
Shoot, Amon-Ra St. Brown just got a deal.
Just got paid. Why aren't we doing the same thing?
Yeah. And what's his name? Ali McNeil. He was going to hit the free agency this upcoming offseason. They locked him up. Yeah, they're smart. They're smart, man. I like what Detroit's doing.
Let's get into a quick break here. We'll come back and we'll get into grading the position groups right after a quick message from our sponsors. All right, welcome back here to Running Through the Jungle. Once again, your host, Brandon Herriott, with your host, Justin Lacey. We have beat the dead horse. I don't know where that saying came from. Kind of odd when you start thinking about it, huh?
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Don't want to do that. Don't want to beat a dead horse. But let's go into taking out some bye week position grades.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you pick, man. You want to start defense or offense? You want to tear the Band-Aid off or you want to?
Look, let's get this defense out of the way because it's going to be a lot of bad grades. Brace yourself, Bengals Nation. It's going to be a lot of bad grades on this report card for this midseason grade. So, but yeah, let's go defense, bro. Let's start it off there.
All right. We're going to go defense. And I'm going to start from closest to the ball and work our way back. Going into the season, and even at the beginning of the season, the defensive line was definitely our biggest concern as a show. We talked about it constantly in the off season, going into the season, and training camp and whatnot. What grade would you give the defensive front?
Are we including obviously the edge rushers in this whole thing, right? The front.
Yep.
D-. I'm sorry, I have to give them a D-. There's no pass rush. It's still Trey Hendrickson or nobody. I like the improvement of what some guys have done against the run as the season went on, but the reality is that they play hard for a certain stretch during the game, but then they regress right back to normal of just being bad and horrible at tackling. We clearly saw it against the Chargers game where they actually stopped the run for a good majority of that game. But you saw towards the tail end that when they needed to run the ball to close it out, they did. And unfortunately, that's just still a stain on his defensive line. So I like the improvement of some players. Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson do make me feel like that. I believe in them in the future. And obviously this grade is not reflective on them, but they are a part of the group. Sam Hubbard, at this point, I just need him he's just off the field permanently. He's just not playing good football. And quite frankly, he's the reason why this grade is much lower than it should be. It could have been an F, but I'm gonna give him a D- just because Trey Hendrickson has leading the league in sacks with 11. I do like that Joseph Osai is getting some clock. But he's also not producing as high as he should because, well, his snaps are being eaten up by by Sam Hubbard, who shouldn't even be on the field at this point. And quite frankly, we still don't know what we got in Myles Murphy. And again, to the chagrin, not at the fault of them specifically. That's more to do with the coaching staff and that decision-making process, whatever. But yeah, that's the grade I'm giving them, man. D-.
I'm between a C-, D+. I'm going to go D+. And I think the reason why I don't go into that C range is mostly because of coaching. I'm just flat out put it out there. Okay. I talked about it last year. I would like to see Sam Hubbard moved inside from time to time, especially when you got so many guys on IR. I'd like to see him moved inside a little bit more, him and Murphy. Side by side, kick him inside. I'd like to see Trey Hendrickson maybe move around a little bit more. I'd like to see, a little bit more playing the young guys because they've looked much more explosive. I really, McKinley Jackson, his first two steps are quick.
Yeah.
I didn't expect all that coming out. I thought more of a traditional 325, 330 pound run stuffer. Man, he gets upfield pretty quick for a big guy. So I do think there's some upside there. I'm going to say D+, but I'm going to say this could instantly next year or going forward with a couple of minor changes, I think could be a C+, B- grade.
Right.
Hope in the air around a pretty poor situation right now. All right, so let's go back into the linebackers. Let me hear what you got to say about some linebackers. What kind of grade you giving them?
I'm going to go with the C.
C?
It could be teetering towards the C-. Look, I'm pretty harsh on these guys because this group is led by your two of the captains of the team, and Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt, and yet they haven't made a slim of impact this entire season, in my opinion. I mean, they have some good tackles here and there. I think that they are in the top 10 and league leading when it comes to making tackles. But how much of that is because they have to make up for missed assignments all the time from the other players? And they try to do a good job on just getting to the ball carrier, but they don't cover in space as well as I've wanted to see. Jermaine Price just continuously get beat out in the flat like crazy. His makeup speed is just not good. Logan Wilson, he is a sure tackler, and he did get that forced fumble against Justin Herbert, which was kind of like a pure luck, in fact, because his shin was the one that jarred the ball basically. Loose. That felt like a Steelers lucky dark magic kind of play that happens for the Pittsburgh Steelers more so than us. Right. But it still happened, It just kind of gave you that hope and feel like, oh, our guys are getting some turnovers. but I'm not going to be too harsh on them like that. I do think that the Bengals do need to look to upgrade this position group as well in the future. I don't think that I think that they just leaning on to, well, we like our guys. They've been in here in the system for a few years now. This was a good tandem. And I was very appreciative of that when they were both drafted. You invested in the position, but this league moves quick, and I don't think the production is living up to that. So I'm going to say C. They still are good players that I would like to have in the lineup over the guys that are in the depth pieces. I do also want to assure that Akeem Davis-Gaither is a guy that I really want to see more. And also, don't be afraid to throw in Muma Jongmeta because, I mean, he was that preseason darling that we all liked. Get him some clock and some snap time, man. Like, let him try to see if he can
what you got.
Pass rush.
It's what you got against
legit
pros.
Yeah, exactly. But that's my grade for them.
I'm right there with you, man. I want to give these guys a B- or C+. I think you're pretty solid with a C.
Yeah.
The thing that when I'm watching around, sometimes we'll see Logan Wilson flying around. Jermaine Pratt can be very cerebral and in the right spot most of the time. And some things I like about him. The thing that I think we're missing from this group, we need an alpha dog. We need a little streak of violence.
Yes.
That's what I want. I want somebody that brings a little bit of violence to the game. You see what Patrick Queen going over to the Steelers has done for them over there. And once Roro got to Baltimore, he wasn't even the alpha anymore. But now back to the Steelers, he is, right?
Yep.
And you see that keeping people accountable and that little bit of violence. I like that. So I think that's an upgrade I'd like to see. Something we can look forward to next year, and something I think you can get without breaking the bank or using a first-round draft pick or second-round draft pick.
What you just said about having an alpha in the leader room, in the linebacker room, that was my whole reason why I tweeted out a while back that this is why I think that the Bengals should have went after Devin White and signed him, whether it been to your practice squad, whatever, and bring him up on game day, whatever, and stuff. Devin White brings that alpha-like presence to a team. I mean, people want to say like, oh, well, he's washed. Really? I don't see that in his tape, but maybe I'm wrong. But I look at a guy that I call it the off the bus mentality. When you get ready to get off the bus, going to a road game in a hostile environment, people looking at to see what kind of dogs you got. People ain't paying attention to Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson as big time dogs on this defense. But when they see Devin White step off that bus, he's a dog. He has that alpha presence about him. It's the same thing with Trey Hendrickson. And it's, again, you have to employ that mindset when you're going against your divisional opponents, because when you're going against the Baltimore Ravens, man, I'm sorry, but Lamar don't respect this Bengals defense. He looks at this Bengals defense like, yeah, they'll try to do like they'll try to throw a ton of things at me, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to freaking kill them. They ain't got nothing on me. That's how I see with the Bengals defense for real. Like they're a unit that just doesn't get respected, and the linebackers need to do a better job of leading the charge with that.
The problem I've got with the off the bus analogy that you used there is it took me right into that, I don't know, periwinkle outfit that Joe Burrow had on. Like, yeah, man, come on. What are we doing? Damn.
That's funny because it's so true.
He used to dress cool when he came in. He looked like a boss. What is he doing now?
Oh man, that is hilarious.
That color's straight off the Care Bears. I don't know. All right. I'm going to start off the defensive back because I don't want to keep putting you in the same situation where you're picking the grade first. I have a feeling, like, look, man, I've seen some decent stuff. I like what Newton's doing now this past week or two. I did think earlier in the year, I thought Dax Hill was playing better. I like Jordan Battle getting more playing time. Unfortunately, DJ Turner looked like he started playing some good ball and then breaks his clavicle. But I can't ignore that we didn't get what we thought we were getting in Geno Stone. That we didn't get Von Bell that we thought we were getting, that we had before. That CTB has somehow become all jaw and no backside. Like I don't like. There's a lot of things going on in both cornerback and safety. I think safety, if you wanted to break it down to cornerback room and safety, I think corner has played a little bit better. CTB's had flashes of playing of great plays, but overall has played poor. He was the worst? No, gave up the most touchdowns of any corner in the league.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But overall, man, I'm going to give this one a D-, and the only reason why I'm not giving them an F is because the young cats are holding them out of an F by the shoelaces. That's why I'm going to leave it at.
You're better than me because I am going to give them an F.
I kind of figured you would.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you decided to be graceful a little bit in that regard because I do agree with you. I did like what I see a little bit from the young guys that got some playing time.
And I want to see more Tyson Anderson. I want to see more Dijon Anthony.
I want to see more DJ Ivy, Josh New. I want to see that. But the reason why I'm going with the failing grade because it's such a fall from grades where we ranked them prior to the season. We were really optimistic of where this group was going to be. We thought that, again, we understand that Dax Hill was attacking a new position in corner. And we thought that, DJ Turner was going to be a backup slot guy and stuff, and maybe, play press corner on the outside in case.
And those two ended up being the best too. At one point in time, like, what do we? Yeah.
But it's just, and also this is be a separate grade for the coaches later. But it's a misevaluation on both of those guys, and I feel like that they just haven't figured those guys out yet. But it's a failing grade because we gave this secondary group, such high regards and thinking that they have a lot of depth pieces, that this is why they didn't bring in a veteran in training camp, Xavier Howard or Eli Apple, and why these guys were not brought in, because we believe that these young guys, you've invested a lot of draft capital in this secondary more specifically. And you thought that at some point that some flowers were going to start blooming from this. And it just goes to show that not only that did not happen, a lot of these guys whiffed or just not getting any playing time. But as you mentioned with Cam Taylor-Britt, and he's the main reason why this is a failing grade, because he was supposed to be the guy that led the charge coming off of last year, who was upset that we were giving up so many explosive plays. He gathered the secondary and said, we're going to get to work on the offseason and all that. And not only that, he comes back and he's not even playing up to the same standard that we did last year or try to be better. He's specifically gotten worse. And it's to the point where now he's got benched the second time, and now he has to come back in the game. But if DJ Turner didn't get hurt, I don't think that we would be seeing Cam Taylor-Britt on the field the rest of the season unless an injury happens or he's going to rotate some snaps in, because he is just not a guy that you need to be having in the starting lineup moving forward. But unfortunately, that's where the secondary is going to be. The Geno Stone signing is an absolute blunder, and I had a fear because usually people that's coming off of a career type of season, like it reminds me of the Preston Brown signing when Marvin Lewis signed him, just because, well, he was a Cincinnati person. He grew up in Cincy, and he led the league in tackles for the Buffalo Bills. But when we signed him, he was so bad that we had to cut him mid-season under the first year of Zach Taylor's regime. This is what Geno Stone is to me. We only signed him because of that interception that he made against Joe Burrow in week 2 against Baltimore last year, and that he led the league in picks, and he had a breakout season and made the Pro Bowl. But he was never a starting caliber safety. We thought that he was going to naturally ascend to that, but we also feared that we were going to hope that he was going to become everything we lost with Jesse Bates, and we know that he was never going to be that. And unfortunately, that is another reason why this is a failing grade. And not to mention Von Bell. Von Bell is slow. He's older. And that's a shame because he was a fan favorite because of his hit on Juju Smith-Schuster. And now I want him out of town after this season. You got to.
He was a very smart player too.
He certainly was, man.
He's definitely a step and a half slower, and it shows.
And the problem is, man, is that you could have had, if we could have just had Von Bell last year before things hit the fan with him, I would have been okay with that, just because you can't lose both Jesse Bates and Von Bell in the offseason and think that the whole makeup of that is going to be fine. No, at least try to keep Von Bell if you're going to lose Bates.
And then start rookies.
Yeah. Now at this point.
And one of them, you change positions.
You change positions on one of them, and then Jordan Battle. I like some of his upside, but he keeps getting beat a lot, and he hasn't found his rhythm yet. So it's just nothing about this cornerback / safety, this secondary room just makes me any sort of feel good. I like what I see from Josh Newton, but that's just one small sample size. Let's see what he looks like when tapes start coming out of him. Let's see how he does against George Pickens when we go against the Steelers in a couple weeks. And if it doesn't look good, man, I'm just going to say it right off the bat, man. We just need to draft the first round corner or something, man. But yeah, that's why they got a failing grade. I hate to be this harsh on them, but at the end of the day, it's not poking any fun or anything or being funny. It's really saddening because we've really thought that this was going to be the position group that was going to take the most leaps before the season started.
And you talk about taking a first round corner. You talk about coaches playing them out of position, not setting them up for success. You drafted a first round corner that played a rover position, that played close to the line of scrimmage, that played in the slot, that blitzed a lot, that came up into the box a lot in Dax Hill. And the first thing you did was played him at safety. And the second thing you did was play him at outside corner. So you've never even played him at the natural position where he excelled at. So is that partially because of Mike Hilton is there, and Mike Hilton has, not only is he a really good slot corner, but he's also, I would say, one of the voices in this locker room for this defense. That's probably a lot to do with it, but you've got to figure that out. If you're the coaches and you're the general manager and you draft this player in the first round, you've got to figure out how to make him successful. You know what I mean? Like the tools are there. We've all seen it on tape. Even when you play him out of position and not what he's natural at, he's still got good tools. I'm just saying. I digress. I'll get off of that one. I want to keep this one real quick and simple. I'm going to go special teams. I'm doing a D- here again. And the only reason why I don't give this one an F is because we have a punter. I didn't know that was the thing. But yeah, man, we got a guy that can boom it a little bit. Now, listen, I'm not in panic mode about Evan McPherson and his career. I live in Pittsburgh behind enemy lines. And I watched Boswell 4 years ago have a season like this, and everybody wanted to run him out of town. He's back to being automatic. So I think this gets figured out. Was there stuff early? I thought there was some holding, like the holds weren't as good as he had been used to, but that's all done now. He's just missing them at this point, and I think he's got to get that figured out. The other thing is, I don't think on returns,
we're not generating any explosiveness out of our return.
Charlie Jones had that one touchdown, but that was a mirage. Nothing back there scares me if I'm an opposing team. So that's one
And the fact that they keep putting Trenton Irwin back there, who at this point, I'm just hoping that, dude, just do not fumble the ball. I don't care if we got to start off at the 1 yard line. Just don't fumble the ball because I know you're not getting any yards. But yeah, I'm agreeing with you, man. D- is where I'm going to go with this too. And I almost went with another failing grade, but I went with the D- just because, everything that you had mentioned, I really am happy that we got a punter. For all the much maligned talk that we had with, Drew Chrisman and Brad Robbins, and it's like we were just crying that things aren't perfect at every single spot on the roster. And then, lo and behold, Ron Rekow is a great punter, and he came out of nowhere. It's one of those things that just shut up and relax. It will get handled in the manner that it should get, and they finally got it taken care of. But yes, Evan McPherson is very concerning for me. I call him Evan McFearful now because I have never been so fearful since the days of Randy Bullock and maybe Mike Nugent. No, definitely Mike Nugent, to where a kicker goes out, and even if it's a short, makeable kick, that I was very much confident that he may miss this. When he went out there, not the 48-yarder, but the 51-yarder, I have never screamed loudly and more confidently at the TV like he is going to miss this kick. And that's exactly what he did. And I just sat there and I didn't even shake my head like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you missed. I didn't even get mad. I was like, I knew that was going to happen because of what I saw previously from them. And yes, the 48-yarder, him pulling that one, it was just like, huh, really? But the reality is that you're right. Funks happen with kickers. Brandon Aubrey, who is my favorite kicker in the NFL right now for the Dallas Cowboys, that dude can kick probably a 70-yarder because he has the leg distance to kick it. But he missed a 40-yarder just this past week. Obviously, he slipped, and that's why he missed. But he also can have an easy miss here and there. Justin Tucker is missing field goals like crazy now.
Yeah, man. Wild. You look at two of the most automatic guys, not only in our division, but in the league over the past 3 years have been Justin Tucker and Evan McPherson. Both of them are struggling right now.
But the one is struggling because he's getting up there in age, and the other one is struggling because maybe he's just going through a severe funk and he has the yips. Evan McPherson is a 70% field goal kicker this season right now. That is bad.
Unacceptable, yeah.
That is so bad. I feel like his actual number is 71.9 or something like that. But regardless, though, that is horrible. That is bottom 5 level, and you just paid this dude. Now, I'm not of the camp of we need to cut him and get a new kicker, but I do think that he has performed so bad to the point where it's like, okay, you do want to hope that he gets better, but this is not out of the realm of possibility that now next offseason you got to bring in some competition.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. All right, let's go to the offensive side of the ball. We'll start with this offensive line. I think it's been up and down, a little bit maligned. I'll let you go first on the offensive line. What are your thoughts on the offensive line?
So my thought was this. In the beginning of the season, we thought that this was the best O-line that Burrow played behind. That wasn't that long ago that we were all saying this. And that it wasn't that long ago, even before the season, where we were giving this a high hopes of a position grade. But it's been more much of the same. The guards play, and it's because of the guard play. And that we don't have stability at depth with our tackle positions. We hoped that Trent Brown was just going to be that natural swing tackle, but he got hurt early on because Amarius Mims wasn't ready to come out there and play. Yeah, he was dealing with his own injury. But Amarius Mims did pan out. We still like Orlando Brown Jr., but just the interior, that was always been our question. I'm going to keep it at a C, maybe a C+, just because I still do like the development of Amarius Mims and where he's headed. I don't like the coaching that goes along with him, and I feel like that when we get to that aspect, they're going to get a much harsher grade. But Amarius Mims I do like, and I still find it very hard to believe that Orlando Brown Jr. is not that all-pro Pro Bowl tackle that he was for 4 straight seasons before coming to Cincinnati. I just feel like that his value has just kind of gotten suppressed since he's been here, and that's because it's, the bad coaching that he's probably getting for the position group. But I'm still going to give it a C+ just because I am hopeful that this group still gets better. But as far as like the interior guard play that's pulled this position group grade down, Cordell Volson and Alex Kappa, we need better. We just need better. That's just not acceptable.
Man, Orlando Brown Jr., I think it was about week 6 or 7, was still had the least amount of pressure percentage from a left tackle in the league on pass downs. I think he leads a little bit more to be desired on the run blocking in my mind. And that could be partially scheme and coaching, like you're saying. Mims, you've seen him he's done a couple boneheaded rookie mistakes. He got caught with his head looking back at the ball and got blown up, but there's a couple things here and there. But overall, man, I like the upside of that kid. That young man is going to be a good right tackle for us for years to come, in my mind. Up the middle, I was asked on Steel Curtain Network, Bengals top 3 needs on your top 3 draft picks. As it sits right now, what would you take? And I said 1 and 2 are interchangeable depending on who's on the board for me. I want pass rush, and I want defensive backs. I said 3, interior offensive lineman. 3rd round, give me the best interior offensive lineman you got.
Yeah.
I would rather get a stud interior offensive lineman, even if what we think is going to happens with T not coming back. I would rather take a flyer on that wide receiver in rounds 4 or 5 and get that interior offensive line a little earlier. And if somebody's staring me in the second round, I think it's going to be a Pro Bowler, I might take him there.
Yeah.
And roll the dice in the third round. With that said, I think the reason why Burrow's been getting sacked less this year is because he's been healthy from the waist down. His knee is fully recovered, but man, he pulled off some magician stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're a very good run blocking team. I think not only do you see what they're doing in with Zach Moss when he was there, and Chase Brown when he was there. You look at Zach Moss's numbers versus the year before were terrible. This might be partially coaching versus the Jimmies and Joes. But you look at what Mixon's doing in Houston, that's a telltale sign right there that we're not
Houston
up, right?
and Houston been having shaky guard play themselves, and yet
Houston's been having a mash unit at offensive line and still running the ball better than we have.
Exactly. So
yeah. I think, man, this is a D for me.
Okay. Again, it's one of those things where it's like I do not disagree with anything that you said, and quite frankly, I'm with you. Even though I'm a little bit more higher on the upside of Amarius Mims and Orlando Brown Jr., presumably so. But their value is being suppressed right now because I don't think that the pieces around those guys are helping them.
That interior lines.
The interior is just not good. And quite frankly, I got to throw Teddy K in there too. I like him. He's a fan favorite and stuff.
It's just getting a little long in the tooth, man. It happens.
Yeah. But I think that maybe, again, nobody's out of the woods around the possibility of being upgraded. It's just not. And
he's been a damn good ball player. He's, from all accounts, a fine human being. Man, you got to do what you got to do. You know, I mean, this is a business. This isn't personal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we got a G Stacks. Got a Steelers fan up in here. You gotta watch
saw the
out.
logo.
You gotta watch out. All right, so let's go to that running game we were talking about.
Okay.
You want me to go first here? I'll go first for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Zach Moss, again, how much of it's the offensive line? I like the upside with Chase Brown. This past game, I really like the fact they ran the ball 22 times. When they stick to that script where they get past 15, they get into the 17 to 22 carries. I think that's where you see their most effectiveness on offense, and it helps their defense stay off the field a little bit. We have nothing past Chase Brown. Khalil Herbert, unproven what we got there yet. I do like the pickup. I didn't freak out when he fumbled his first attempt because he's taking he's been here for, a cup of coffee, and he's taking a handoff from somebody he's never played with. So that's going to happen. C-. But I like the upside. I'm
with you on a grade. I'm actually going to be in agreement with you. I actually had C on my listed grade here, but I'm agreeing with you on C-. I think that you can't go wrong with either pick, but Chase Brown has single-handedly carried this running game by himself, and him being productive as he has been, especially in these last few weeks.
I would give him a B+. There's just no depth.
Exactly. Individual grade, he gets a much higher grade with that. And I think that the law of averages, when it comes to the average grading scale among the running backs, I don't like Travion Williams. I don't think he should even be considered as a future member on this team anymore. He can't even get no clock. So, and when he does, he can't even pass protect. So just stay off the field, bro. Buddy. I like Zach Moss the last couple of years with his previous teams. I don't like him with us. He was never a Joe Mixon replacement. I think that the notion that people thought he was here to replace Joe Mixon, it was never that. He was a Samaj P. Ryan more so replacement than anything, because they liked his pass protection out of the backfield, but also he can sort of sneak out and catch passes out of the backfield a little bit cleaner. And that's why you liked him and you drafted him. And he can have some explosive runs here and there. That's what you liked about him when he was with the Indianapolis Colts last year. and he had to do running back duty when Jonathan Taylor got hurt. But we saw it early on, man. This dude was never a leading running back, and that's why he pulls the grade down for me now, talking about it out loud. But the one that brings it up is Chase Brown, because look, I understand that this fan base can't move on from what transpired with Joe Mixon. You got a lot of people that love Joe Mixon, and myself included. I'm happy to see him do so great in Houston. And obviously, I wish that things that would have worked out better here. But the fact of the matter is, let's be honest. Some of the plays that Chase Brown made on Sunday night against the Chargers specifically, Joe Mixon's not making those kind of plays. When Joe Burrow had to pull the Houdini escape out of the backfield and then threw it to Chase Brown deep down the field on a run, and Chase Brown made a couple of guys miss like he was Jamar Chase as on the receiving end. I love Joe Mixon, but he's not doing that. But he's a better running back, obviously, than Chase Brown at this point. But this is not comparing apples to oranges right now. This is simply about the fact of Chase Brown's ascension in this offense has been very much needed, because without him, it would have suffered so bad to the point where it's like, yeah, Joe Burrow has no choice but to throw the ball. But this is the bit that the Bengals front office and the team, that's what they laid themselves in, because they decided to go with these two guys. They had plenty of opportunities to invest in the position when we had all those picks. You should have picked up another guy, but now you're trying to sell us on Kendall Milton signing to the practice squad that's going to improve anything, and it's not. So, but it's C-, and it's solely only because of Chase Brown.
When you signed Zach Moss, if anybody thought they signed a Batman, not a Robin, come on, man.
Right.
I like what Chase Brown's doing. I'll give a shout out to Tim here. I think Thunder and Lightning Estime would have looked really good with this.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that would have been a great one.
Quad Father's in the building. Appreciate you guys coming over. You can tell right now, PYB just got done over at the Steel Curtain Network. I got some Steelers fans coming over here.
Hey, we appreciate you for y'all joining us, man. Come on, man.
That thumbs up. We'll take your thumbs up, but don't give us no guff. We're having a hard time over here.
Oh man, it's gonna be fun when we review that game with them next week.
Let's go. Give you a wide receiver.
All right. Individually, Jamar Chase is obviously getting an A+++, but the group itself is getting a solid B, and that's only because Jamar Chase is on path of being a Triple Crown winner. He may not win the Triple Crown, but his season production so far has just been monumental. Dealing with the absence of T. Higgins and his soft tissue injury and missing a few games here and there. Jamar Chase, and what he had to deal with the hold in and with his contract situation. But he by himself is the reason why this position group is a B. And the reason why is not higher is because of the bottom of the barrel of this position group. Ain't nobody else is doing anything with this group. Jermaine Burton, who was the guy that I championed on this show multiple times, and I wanted to see the opportunity. And he is just not obviously I'm going to fault some of the coaches on this, but Jermaine Burton has showed no development. And, he had an opportunity to catch a touchdown pass in the red zone against the Chargers, and he mistimed his jump and ended up dropping it. It was just like, okay, all right, now I'm sick and tired of you now. Trent Irwin is just like, he's the Sam Hubbard of wide receivers, a guy that you liked, but he just needs to not be on the field anymore. Yeah, and then Andre Yoshivas, he's a disappearing act too. There was a stretch where he just hadn't caught a pass during the regular season, and then now he gets on the field and he does catch a few passes, and there's a few clutch passes, but he don't scare any DBs. You still like him as a depth piece, but you don't like him as in the future development. He's damn sure not no T. Higgins replacement in the future. No. But nonetheless, though, again, this is exactly what you decided when you drafted all these guys. And I'm not going to be too harsh because these are later round picks. Charlie Jones, Andre Yoshivas, Trent Irwin, I don't even know if he was even drafted or not, but the other two guys, they're late round draft picks. So obviously there's going to be a steeper learning curve with some of these guys, but Jermaine Burton is the main disappointment of what pulls the grade down on a grading scale for me within it comes with the totality of his position group, because he was a third round pick. He was a guy that was supposed to make impact early on, and he was supposed to get it and understand right away that he was going to be needed at some point more than not, and he just hasn't been there. So B is I'm going to give him a solid B. Jamar saved it for him, and Jermaine Burton heard it more for them.
Yeah. I'm going to give him a B+. And a lot, I agree with a lot of what you said. part of why I'm doing that might have been expectation based on Jermaine Burton. I think you expected more out of him than I did. I thought he was a great pickup. I still think he can be, but there was all the reports said that he had emotional, maturity issues and stuff. So I figured it would take a year or two in the league before you kind of saw him getting right.
Yeah.
The other part that I think pulls this down that you didn't mention to me is and I get that it's probably should call it the tight end room, but I'm putting Mike Gesicki out here because he lines up in the slot more than he lines up as a tight end. Ever thought of being? I think we're not utilizing him correctly.
Right.
But listen, the only reason why it's a B+ is Jamar Chase because he is just
having a crazy.
I can't fathom having a quarterback leading the league in touchdowns and yards, passing yards, and me not saying that his wide receiver group's getting an A or an A-. But they're not. They're getting a B+, and I feel like I'm being a little bit generous on that. So tight end group, let's transition right over to it. I'm going to tell you right now, and again, I think part of this comes with, I don't want to say I'm grading on a curve, but I think expectation comes into the grading a little bit, and they've been better than expected. Eric All was having a really good rookie season. Probably going to give these guys a B, and I thought, hell, a month before the season, we didn't have one on the roster. So, or a month before the draft, that is.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a C+. I thought about tangling with the B as well too, but I'm going to give him a C+ just because I needed more explosive plays out of this group, especially if we're a passing offense. But the addition of Eric All finding the secret sauce of being a great blocker and also going to sneak out and become a solid receiving threat, that was very surprising and eye-opening because, when we drafted him, he had that injury history. He wasn't ready, and we thought that he was going to hit the PUP list when the season was starting. He came off in time, and he started producing. But you also drafted Tanner McLaughlin in there, and you don't even see him. He's inactive on game days, and I don't
think it's because of the health issues.
I see. That's the thing. I don't know. We don't know what we have out of this guy. We haven't seen him really play. And I don't even recall even watching him even during the preseason to see if what we even have out of this guy.
He's coming back out of injury.
But here's what I do know that I don't like is I don't like Tanner Hudson anymore. The only reason why you liked him is because he was a guy that helped save you from an even worse tight end room last year when you elevated him from the practice squad. But this year, he's just showing you that he's not a guy that you need to invest long-term in. Drew Sample, he still is not explosive. Again, it's one of those.
No, he is what he is, man. He's a blocker. He's in line,
and that's it.
Put him in that H back, and he helps keep Burrow upright some.
He can be a good check down merchant if Burrow needs to throw a pass, and the mercy like, oh, here's Drew Sample, just catch this pass, get like at least a yard.
I think as a number 3 tight end, man, I think
he's fine. He's good. Yeah. The Bengals have been putting him in the starting lineup as the number 1 starting tight end, and that's been frustrating to watch when you have Mike Gesicki, who should have been an inline starting tight end this whole entire time. And I understand that Mike Gesicki is more so like your slot receiving threat kind of thing, but he's still a tight end, and that's what's maddening because he can do the dirty work and help you block a little bit if you need to. And he's also been a guy that can catch clutch passes across the middle at third down at the sticks when you needed them to. He's shown you that. So while I want to give this a B to even B minus, whatever, I'm giving him a C+ just because of Mike Gesicki, number 1, has shown you that he's been more productive. You should have just trusted him more. And I also like Eric All. Unfortunately, he got hurt. But again, it's one of those things where it's like you got to retool the position again moving forward. And you had your opportunities in the past, and when we tried to share this with them, but you guys said that this position group is not at this. We don't need them to be explosive. But you see, we kind of do when you have the depth at the receiving position that we just illustrated. But C+ for me.
So before we get to our final position group, I'm gonna go over here to something that Dennis Pavlik, the Quad Father, said. I said this last week on the homies. said it was going to cost you $36 million. You need to give him $1 more million than Justin Jefferson got during this offseason, maybe 1.5-ish, something like that. And you had to guarantee, the same or more than what Justin Jefferson got. You didn't do that. This is what I think it's going to cost you. Chase is getting his $40 million year next year guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a $40 million. I think he's going to be the first wide receiver to get $40 million. And the Bengals are going to have to look at this. And at the end of the day, they're going to end up costing themselves about $20 million.
Yeah. And if you're Jamar Chase, you try to give him the opportunity to get a price tag a little bit cheaper. The Bengals organization just did this to their own self. And Chase Brown does not need to do the front office no favors. If $40 million is what he wants, you better give him that $40 million. Otherwise, you better trade him and get like 1,000 draft picks from
Jamar Chase. You said Chase Brown. We're not giving Chase Brown $40 million. Calm down. Calm down. Yeah. What are you doing? No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, all Jamar right. Chase is getting that $40 million.
I'll let you have this. It's a really tough one. I know you want to be super critical about this. Quarterback room. Justin, what grade are you giving the quarterback room?
Got to give him an A. It should be an A+, but I'm giving him an A just because we haven't won a lot of games to even illustrate how great he's been. And also, too, I know he has the ability to be clutch, but unfortunately, those clutch moments that Joe Burrow has had hasn't come through. Our only wins have been against bad teams. Against the Chargers, look, say what we want about the defense and stuff like that. And yes, they are horrendous and they were horribly bad, but we had opportunities to win that game 3 straight times after we stormed back and tied the game. We got to that point where the defense did enough to stop them in multiple possessions in the second half, and you had 3 straight opportunities. Now, this is not on Joe. Let me clear this up. This is all not on Joe, but he did miss some throws. This more so is on Evan McPherson because you need to make them damn kicks. But also, Joe Burrow knows that he didn't want that to be in the hands of a field goal. He wanted to ice it with a touchdown. I know he did. That's why he always know that he had this potential to do it. But, man, this guy's been put through so much on it. So much has been put on his back, and he's been trying to deliver time and time again. But at the end of the day, it's not showing up in the wins. That's the stat that matters the most. Did you win or did you lose? And we're 4-7, unfortunately. But Joe's production, his performance lands him an A on my book here.
Listen, I still think we have one of the most competent backup quarterback situations in the league as well. Because of that, and Joe Burrow's having an MVP caliber season, I really want to give him an A+. You do make a compelling point. He missed a couple throws that probably could have won that game without the field goals. You hate to be that nitpicky on someone who's obviously willing you to a lot of those games.
Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, though.
I tell you what, man, I got to give him a solid A, no A+, and it's because I want Joe Shiesty back. I don't want frosted tips. I don't want periwinkle blue. I want black leather. I want the Cartier glasses. I want Joe Shiesty back.
Thank you. Yes. And also, too, and to be fair, the reason why I bring that up is because no matter how you spin it, no one's going to really remember. Well, Bengals fans will, but our ops, people that hate the Bengals or want to root against the Bengals, that have great quarterbacks that they argue for as well, too. They're going to look at the end of the day as the years goes on. Well, you're 0-2 against Herbert, and it's going to argue, and they have the reason to argue that because you didn't win this game or you lose. It works the same way because at the end of the day, while we appreciate the fight and the comeback from this previous game, you still lost the game. If that was Patrick Mahomes, he was down 27-6 or something like that, and he had to storm all the way back to tie the game, and yet he missed 3 straight opportunities to ice it. Bengals fans will be killing Patrick Mahomes right now. They're talking about how he ain't clutch, he ain't this, and that the other quarterback came out and beat him and did. That's what we will be doing as Bengal fans. So you got to understand, man, those type of punches are going to be thrown. You don't see them happening yet because a lot of people love Joe Burrow and they feel like that his value has been suppressed because of the organization and coaching around him, that he has to carry them more than anything. But best believe people are keeping those mental notes.
Yeah, listen, man, I don't know if Joe Burrow wasn't on my team, I wouldn't be looking forward to playing him either.
Mm-hmm. That's the potential that we know that he has that killer mentality within him. But to your point, man, I need to see Joe Shiesty back. I need to see him back.
All right. If you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe, give us that thumbs up, rate, review, 5-star ratings are the lifeblood to what we do. We appreciate you guys taking a second to do that for us and share us on your social media platform. Tell a friend to tell a friend about us. We appreciate you guys rocking with us every week. Even the Strange Love segue, you'll be able to catch Strange Love next week, as I have one of the goofballs that I do podcasts with over at Steel Curtain Network. I don't know which one yet. We got to figure that part out. But I'll have one of the guys over here. Maybe I have one of the gals. I have a gal. I might have one. We'll see. To be continued. But we're going to have somebody over here talking about the matchup for the Bengals and Steelers the following week. Because, Justin,
we are on a break.
It says it right there. We're on a break.
We are on a break. And we needed this break.
Yes. We are not going to digest Cincinnati Bengals football this weekend. Hopefully my food will taste better.
Yes. And before we even sign off, I do want to give an early shout out because I do know that Thanksgiving is upon us next week. So enjoy your Thanksgiving dinners. If we obviously don't get a chance to connect again prior to that time, I believe we will, maybe. We should. Yeah, we should.
Yep.
Every Wednesday. Yeah, next Wednesday. Yeah, and Thanksgiving's Thursday. I'm sorry. But anyways, we will be able to reconvene and stuff. So, but still enjoy your Thanksgiving dinners and stuff like that. At least enjoy prepping them before Thanksgiving happens. So
ain't nobody enjoy prepping them, man.
No.
And listen, a special shout out too was announced. Willie Anderson is a semifinalist for the Hall of Fame.
Man, I feel like he's getting tired of that.
Hey, he's got a tough group this year too. If you haven't checked out some of those names, woo.
I did see the first time eligibility class as far as like who's involved, but Willie Anderson should have already been in there already, and that's just so frustrating that he is still having to go through this problematic, fixated, flawed process when it comes to the Hall of Fame selection committee. Because in my opinion, I know that Eli Manning is one of those guys, but Eli Manning should not be on that first ballot Hall of Fame. He should not be there. I'm sorry.
I agree with you. No. I agree with you 1,000%. Hey, enjoy your football this weekend. I'll be rendezvousing with my number 2 team. Don't tell anybody. And enjoying my last home game at Michigan. So done with my traveling for the year. So we should be on track with our roaring reactions and all those kind of things going forward. But as always, you check us next week. Wednesday, 8:05 Eastern Time, live on YouTube as we are running through the jungle.